For the longest time, the art of the trade deal was this grand geopolitical exercise. But today, the game has completely changed. We're seeing this radical transformation in how nations build economic partnerships. It's a shift away from broad statements and toward these super precise, guided strategies. So what's in this new playbook? This is really the central question we're digging into, and the answer reveals a whole new playbook that countries are using to get through a pretty complex global economy. And it has some surprising results for businesses and for you and me, the consumers. And to kick us off, just look at this number, 92%. Now, this isn't some wild projection. It's the actual trade growth India has seen with its newest partners in just a few years. It's an absolutely stunning figure that perfectly captures the power of this new laser-focused way of doing things.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the big picture, what's changed. Then we'll zoom in on India's incredible success story. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of a modern deal between the UK and New Zealand, see what's actually inside these things, look at the real-world impacts, and finally, piece it all together to see what the future of trade looks like.
Okay, so we are definitely in a new age of trade. The old way of doing things, signing these huge aspirational deals that were often more about political handshakes than actual economic reality, that's giving way to something way more pragmatic and focused on results. And this slide really nails the difference. The old playbook was basically experimental. You were trying to spark trade where very little existed. The new playbook? It's about finding embers that are already glowing and just pouring gasoline on them. It's a huge shift from creating trade to accelerating it. And probably the best case study for this new strategy in action is India. They have completely rewired their approach to free trade agreements, and the results have been, well, incredible. This quote just gets right to the heart of it all. India isn't really experimenting anymore. Instead, it's making these really calculated bets on trade relationships that are already strong. The goal isn't to invent success out of thin air, but to amplify it. The secret sauce behind all of this is a concept called trade complementarity. It sounds a little academic, but it's simple, really. You partner with countries that have what you need and need what you have. It's all about finding that perfect economic puzzle piece. And this table just lays it out so clearly. With the UAE, it's about plugging into a massive logistics and energy hub. Boom, 131% growth. With Australia, it's about getting access to crucial resources. And with the UK, it's all about high-value services. Each partnership is unique, it's targeted, and it's built on a strength that's already there. Okay, so we've seen the big picture strategy. Now let's zoom right in, way, into the fine print of a modern agreement to see how this stuff actually works in practice. And for that, we're going to look at the recent deal between the UK and New Zealand. Now hold on a second. After seeing that massive 92%, this number might seem, well, tiny. A projected long-run GDP boost of just 0.03% for the UK. You might be thinking, is that a typo? Is something wrong here? No, not at all. And this is such a key takeaway. India's 92% growth is the combined result of an entire portfolio of these targeted deals. This 0.03% is the much smaller but much more realistic gain from a single negotiation. Modern trade is all about stacking up these small, specific, and de-risked wins. And that's because these agreements are just not about cutting taxes on goods anymore. They're these massive, sprawling documents that really touch on almost every single aspect of the modern economy. Just look at the chapter list from this one deal. It's not just about what you ship in a container anymore. We're talking about rules for digital trade, shared commitments on climate change, and even getting into things like gender equality and animal welfare. The scope has just exploded. So what does that mean in the real world? Here's a great tangible example. Tucked away in the intellectual property chapter, there's a rule that gives UK artists a cut when their work is resold in New Zealand. That's a real direct financial benefit for a very specific creative industry. And it's not just about opening things up either. These deals are also about protecting your own domestic standards. This agreement specifically makes sure the UK can keep its ban on hormone-treated beef, which shows that countries can free up trade without having to compromise on consumer safety. Of course, let's be realistic. No deal is without its trade-offs. Opening up your markets inevitably creates economic shifts. It's going to help some sectors while creating new challenges for others. And here's a crystal clear example of that trade-off. The UK's motor vehicle industry, it's projected to get a nice little boost. But its semi-processed foods sector, We're talking beef and lamb is expected to shrink a bit because of more competition from New Zealand's really strong agricultural sector.
So what about us, the consumers? Well, the benefits often show up at the checkout counter. The biggest savings from cutting tariffs are expected to be on alcoholic beverages. So think New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and then on other food products. So, now that we've seen the macro strategy and the micro details, let's pull it all together. Let's assemble this new playbook for trade in the 21st century.
Here it is in 3 simple steps. First, you pick your partners wisely, based on data and what's already working. Second, you gotta think way beyond just tariffs and build a deal that works for the modern economy. And third, you have to be realistic. You're aiming for specific, tangible gains, not some grand speculative transformation.
So in the end, modern trade deals kind of have this dual identity. On one hand, they are incredibly powerful tools for national strategy, like we saw with India's approach. But on the other hand, they are these incredibly complex, delicate balancing acts, which we saw in the details of the UK-New Zealand deal. And that leaves us with a final big question to think about. As the world economy seems to get more and more uncertain, more fragmented, is this new, precise, strategic approach to trade not just a clever tactic, but maybe the most resilient and essential path forward for everyone?